Now, the Pierce County Charter Review Commission is right now in the middle of considering a couple of potential amendments that would have to go to Pierce County voters. And there may be many amendments, but the two we're talking about today have to do with amending the county charter to create an independent ombudsman office for the sheriff's department. And the second one moves ahead to make the sheriff in Pierce County an appointed, not elected position. Right now in the state of Washington, only King County's sheriff is appointed by the King County executive. All the other 38 counties in the state of Washington put it up to voters. Who do you want to be your sheriff? It's an elected position and something that most people across the state hold pretty important to them. We want to elect our sheriff. We want him to reflect our values and priorities, potentially our politics. And that is something that Pierce County's Charter Commission is looking to potentially change. So I watched a meeting on Wednesday night. There was a packed room of people at that Charter Commission meeting, speaking on both sides of the issue, really. And they were talking about the sheriff issues, the ombudsman creation for office, and whether or not to make it an appointed, not elected position. There was a woman named Barb Church who came up to testify against Sheriff Keith Swank, who was there. That's Pierce County Sheriff. And she said, our current sheriff has threatened lawmakers in the legislature if they would pass 5974. That is the legislation that was passed this year to do these things that Pierce County is considering. He said, this is Barb Church speaking. He said he would gather thousands of people to rally around the county city building and protest. Now, she was referring to when Sheriff Swank did go before lawmakers during a legislative hearing and testifying in opposition to Senate Bill 5974 and said, just try to remove me from office. Just try to do this. And my supporters will surround the county city building in my defense. And he still stands by those comments that he made. They were intentionally inflammatory, and some folks, even the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, condemned that. But he stands by it to this day, saying, I would say it again. And he told me in an interview on Thursday that even without Senate Bill 5974, which again, currently, if you're not aware of where this is legally, a judge in Thurston County basically put it on hold and said, I believe this may very well be unconstitutional. You can't just say that, you're going to have this unelected body remove elected sheriffs from office. So she is kind of granted a stay, if you will, in favor of those who challenged, including Sheriff Keith Swank and some others. But Pierce County is moving ahead to basically do the same thing, regardless of what happens with 5974. So here's part of my conversation with Sheriff Keith Swank.
Well, I think that they were wanting to pass this regardless of 5974. They just wanted to piggyback on it. So it was already set up. Some of those commissioners ran for the commission saying they wanted to make the sheriff an appointed position. They're the ones from Tacoma, from like District 4, which is where the executive is from. So those people that are there, he endorsed some of them and is behind that. Although he hasn't come out and said anything like that, like I want to get rid of Sheriff Swank, but we all know that would have rather have my opponent be the sheriff and probably wants to appoint his own sheriff too. So the executive before him, Bruce Danmeyer, I heard wanted to appoint his sheriff too because he didn't like the sheriff telling him no about things. So a lot of these people become these executives and they want to have complete control. No kings except for if they're the king.
Now, Sheriff Swank also told me that the bulk of those he represents support keeping the office as an elected position. And he said, even those who don't like him. He told me he gets tons of emails, phone calls, people that show up at community meetings, and he's out there in the community all the time. Say, I didn't vote for you, and I probably wouldn't vote to reelect you, but I would like to retain my right to vote to put the next guy in office. I don't want that to be something that the Pierce County executive, someone that is appointed. You might have a far right, elected executive in Pierce County who wants to put a far right sheriff in office, and the people that don't support that want to be able to have some say in it. So he broke down pretty particularly for me the two amendments related to the office of the sheriff that the commission is looking at.
Right. So the two different charter amendments. One is to make the sheriff an appointed position appointed by the executive. And then in addition to that, they still want to have an ombuds to be able to get there and say, I'm going to oversee and control the sheriff's office. The ordinance itself doesn't have very much teeth in it. And technically and legally, they have to negotiate and bargain that with the deputies union. But the other thing is, hypothetically, if it were to pass this fall, if it gets on the ballot and were to pass, I'm not participating in it. They can do whatever they want to do. I'm not going to give them any records. I'm not going to do anything at all because I want to see what they're going to do then. What they're going to do. They don't have, it's not criminal. It's all just cooperative. Well, if you're against me like that, I'm not cooperating with you, right? So, um, which would be funny. I like to see what they do about that. I don't think it will pass anyhow when we go out there. I think it might end up on the ballot. I don't think that people will vote for it when we go out there and tell them about what this is all is. It's overreach from the executive and whatnot. But the other thing too is it is a recipe for criminality on behalf of the executive. He can do whatever they want to do. Not this current one. I'm talking about future ones or whatever. I'm not saying he's criminal. Anybody can be a criminal then. And then they pick the sheriff that they want, and then they threaten him with the ombuds. If you do anything to go against me, we'll go after this because the ombuds would be picked by him also. So this is complete corruption at its finest.
Now, the 21-member Charter Review Commission still has to vote whether or not they're going to advance this. That'll happen later in June. And then if in fact they vote to push these couple of amendments forward to voters, that will be on the November ballot. Sheriff Swank told me there's a number of other things. In fact, I saw that debated at the meeting I viewed the other evening. One, it has to do with eminent domain. He said there could be up to 12 or 15 charter amendments on the ballot for voters to weigh in on come November. And then, of course, if passed, these two sheriff, charter review amendments, if they're passed, the Pierce County Council would then be required to create an ordinance to implement the office. And that is going to be subject to bargaining for the Pierce County Deputies Union. According to Sheriff Swank, that's a non-starter for the union. So even if voters did approve these two issues in November, it does still have to go to bargaining for the Pierce County Sheriff's Union. And Sheriff Swank feels confident that the union would ultimately say, we're not going for this. We're not going to have an ombudsman over our office, and we're not going to have an appointed, unelected sheriff.